Question 1. Disparate impact means? When a woman is required to take tests that men are not required to. When an Asian is assumed to be smarter than a Hispanic. Seemingly fair practices that have an adverse effect on a protected class. The legal right to ask an employee to resign, with or without reason. The answer is C. Seemingly fair practices that have an adverse effect on a protected class. Question 2. Which of the following is true about the following labor legislation? Sherman Antitrust Act of 1890. It allowed injunctions to forbid groups that conspired to restrain trade. Norris La Guardia Act of 1932. Protected the rights of workers to organize and strike without the interference of federal injunctions. NLRA or Wagner Act of 1935. Identified the 5 employer unfair labor practices. All of the above. The answer is D. All of the above. Question 3. The following are performance review methods except educational, narrative, rating, comparison. The answer is A. Educational. Question 4. HR risks can be classified in the following areas except legal compliance, security, workplace monitoring, business continuity. The answer is C. Workplace monitoring. The Drug-Free Workplace Act of 1970 applies to businesses with federal contracts of $100,000 or more each year. What is inaccurate in this statement? The Act was established for state contractors, not federal contractors. The Act was established in 1988, not 1970. The statement is accurate. The Act applies to businesses with federal contracts worth $50,000. The answer is B. The Act was established in 1988, not 1970. The Labor Management Relations Act, LMRA, of 1947, established the following except? It gave employees the right to sue the union. The LMRA prohibits closed shops, and allows union shops only with the consent of employee majority. It prohibited jurisdictional strikes and secondary boycotts. The LMRA allows employers to permanently replace striking union workers. The answer is A. It gave employees the right to sue the union. Which of the following is considered a business continuity risk? Environmental disasters, organized disruptions, hacking of business information systems. All of the above. The answer is D. All of the above. The following are unlawful activities that could pose a HR risk to an organization with regard to legal compliance except discrimination, ergonomic strains, sexual harassment, negligent hiring. The answer is B. Ergonomic strains. HR risks with regard to workplace privacy includes which of the following? Identity theft, natural disaster, priority disruptions, safeguarding information assets. The answer is A. Identity theft. A bell curve ranking method means rating a small group of employees at a high scale, a small group at the bottom scale, and the majority at an average scale. Rating a large group of employees both at the top and bottom, with a small number of employees at the average scale. Rating employees as low as possible. Rating employees as high as possible. The answer is A. Rating a small group of employees at a high scale, a small group at the bottom scale, and the majority at an average scale. Which of the following is not a HR risk with regard to safety and health? Ergonomic strains, repetitive stress injuries, system failures, workplace injuries. The answer is C. System failures. All of these are true about a HR audit except it determines the HR practices to continue or discontinue. It is a significant means of measuring HR effectiveness. It positions HR as a business partner. It is not effective when outsourced. The answer is D. It is not effective when outsourced. The HR tools used to identify and assess risks are workplace investigation, HR audits, HR risk management. A and B. The answer is D. A and B. The union at a company wants to receive automatic deductions as union dues. To be enforceable, what must happen? The union must get permission from the NLRB. The union must get permission from the employees. The employees must give written authorization for the deductions. Members of the union agree to deductions when they decide to have a union. The answer is C. The employees must give written authorization for the deductions. A HR audit in the compensation and benefits functional area will not assess which of the following: structure of the HR department, consistency of compensation philosophy, wage compression, healthcare cost review. The answer is A. Structure of the HR department. A totality agreement means a zipper clause. A clause which states that the collective bargaining agreement is the entire agreement between the parties. A and B. A reform of the LMRA. The answer is C. A and B. The Thai company is conducting an HR audit of the Employee Relations Department only. What is likely to be assessed? Conflict resolution processes, turnover demographics, diversity practices. All of the above. The answer is D. All of the above. Which of the following determines if the NLRB will consider an acquiring owner to be a successor employer? Substantial continuity and similarity with predecessors' operations. Hiring of a majority of predecessors' employees. All of the above. None of the above. The answer is C. All of the above. An HR audit focused only on recruitment practices, affirmative action programs and labor market demographics is most likely on which of these functional areas? Organization of HR function, labor relations, HR risk management, workforce planning and employment. The answer is D. The following are true about the work stoppages listed below except lockouts when management shuts down operations, boycotts when management avoids negotiations, strikes when the union decides to stop working. All of the above. The answer is B. Why should a HR audit focus on pre-employment tests? To ensure the tests are valid and reliable. To abide by the uniform guidelines on employee selection procedures. A and B only. To determine if alternative staffing methods are required. The answer is C. A and B only. An unlawful strike in which employees stop working and stay in the building is called sit-down strike, work stoppage, economic strike, work boycott. The answer is A. Sit-down strike. Contractors must do the following to be in compliance with the Drug-Free Workplace Act of 1988 except develop a written policy stating they provide a drug-free workplace. Develop a program to educate employees about the dangers of drug abuse. Establish penalties for illegal drug convictions. Develop injunctions according to OSHA's dictates. The answer is D. Mark Harris owns two companies, one is unionized and the other is not unionized. This is referred to as secondary boycott, alter ego doctrine, double-breasting, ally doctrine. The answer is C. The Occupational Safety and Health Act, OSHA, established 3 duties for the workplace. Which of the following is not one of them? Employers must provide a workplace free from recognized hazards. Employees must research and evaluate workplace hazards. Employers must comply with all safety and health standards. Employees must examine workplace conditions to make sure they conform to applicable OSHA standards. The answer is B. When an employer whose workers are on strike contacts a neutral employer to perform the work of the striking workers, this can be referred to as alter ego doctrine, ally doctrine, LMRA boycotts, unfair labor practice. The answer is B. When an employer has 2 businesses with significantly identical management, Operations and ownership, this is known as alter ego employer. Ally employer. Double-breasting. Mediation. The answer is A. The HR manager of the grit company is concerned that a company whose operations complements the operations of the grit company is suffering a strike by its union. The grit company is involved in straight line operations, boycotting, yellow dog contracts, contract clauses. The answer is A. The HR manager of tort company recently informed the union members that secondary boycotts are ULPs. What is a secondary boycott? When a union intends to go on strike. When a union intends to picket. When a union tries to compel a neutral employer to stop doing business with an employer the union has a dispute with. None of the above. The answer is C. What is a wildcat strike? A strike in response to a ULP violation. Unannounced industrial action in violation of a contract clause prohibiting strikes. A strike in support of a hot cargo clause. A strike against a hot cargo clause. The answer is B. The Labour Management Reporting and Disclosure Act of 1959 established which of the following? It placed controls on internal union operations. It restricted increases in union dues and outlawed extortionate picketing. It provides safeguards for protecting labor organization funds and assets. All of the above. The answer is D. Which of these is the most important reason why performance appraisals should be documented? To ensure employees perform their duties as assigned. To serve as a structured means of communication. To support employment actions, positive or negative. To provide performance feedback. The answer is C. The Reed Companies Union has embarked on a strike to obtain better pay and working conditions. This strike is unlawful and economic. Lawful and economic. An unfair labor practice. A NLRB infraction. The answer is B. Discriminatory hiring actions can be allowed under Title VII, in which case, union membership. Discriminatory hiring actions are never allowed under Title VII. Shareholder quota. Bona fide occupational qualifications. The answer is D. The following makes a strike unlawful except if it occurs in response to an employer unfair labor practice. If it supports union unfair labor practices. If the strikers engage in serious misconduct. If it violates a no-strike clause in the contract. The answer is A. A best practice in performance appraisal is provide constant feedback to employees. Communicate performance expectations clearly. Set goals for each review period. All of the above. The answer is D. The CEO of Lynn Company has informed employees that joining a union may hinder promotion chances. This is an example of intimidation, subtle manipulation, unfair labor practices, prohibitive activities. The answer is C. An example of lobbying is a member of Congress sponsors a bill. A non-profit organization finds a sponsor for a bill. A Congress committee conducts an approval for a bill. A senator seeks presidential backing on a bill. The answer is B. An action that restrains or coerces employees from exercising rights to organize or bargain collectively is unfair labor practice. No strike clause. Labor coercion. Anti-NLRB. The answer is A. In the case of Stender v. Lucky Stores, where this is true. The HR team were found culpable of negligent hiring. A lawsuit on gender discrimination was filed following information from a diversity training. A lawsuit on repatriation of non-US citizens. Flexible work arrangements were found to be discriminatory. The answer is B. The acronym TIPS helps to make sure employers avoid prohibited labor activity. What does TIPS stand for? Threaten, indict, promise, and spy on employees. Threaten, interrogate, promise or spy on employees. Threaten, interrogate, propagate, and spy, on employees. Threaten, investigate, promise or spy, on employees. The answer is B. The Rehabilitation Act of 1973 is all these except prohibits discrimination on the basis of disability in programs run by state agencies, prohibits employment discrimination by federal government contractors and subcontractors with contracts of more than $10,000, requires federal information technology to be accessible to people with disabilities, prohibits federal employers from discriminating against qualified people with disabilities. The answer is A. Employers must not enter into a hot cargo agreement. What is a hot cargo agreement? An importation clause. Union organizing. When at the union's request, employers stop doing business with another employer. Refusing to bargain in good faith. The answer is C. The following are crucial to an effective repatriation program except assistance in managing the transition to and from the host country. Effective repatriate knowledge management. Provide employment for the employee's spouse. One-on-one debrief between the manager and repatriate. The answer is C. Featherbedding is a ULP. What does it mean? When unions require employers to keep employees on jobs rendered obsolete by technology. Restrain managers' ability to discipline union members. Turn a blind eye to union excessive dues and membership fees. A legal term for administrative law court corruption. The answer is A. The Run Corporation is being investigated for discriminatory recruitment practices. The company REs will be helpful to provide trends and ratio analyses of the company's promotion processes. Provide data related to the corporation's affirmative action processes. Provide summary comparison of promotion forecast. Provide data on the EEO1 and OFC compliance forms. The answer is B. In which of these instances is picketing unlawful? When another union has been lawfully recognized as the bargaining representative. When a representation election was held within the previous 12 months. When a representation petition is not filed within 30 days of the start of the picketing. All of the above. The answer is D. Job reinforcement is critical to effective transfer of training. Supervisory authority. Negative accelerating curve. Change increments. The answer is A. Yellow dog contracts entails which of the following? Employers used yellow dog contracts to prevent employees from joining unions by signing agreements. The agreement stipulates that joining a union in the future will be sufficient grounds for dismissal. A and B. None of the above. The answer is C. The ADA defined disability as an impairment that substantially limits one or more major life activities. The following are correct under the ADA except specified that disability includes any impairment that is in remission, if it will substantially limit a life activity when active. Reasonable accommodation must be provided for individuals who currently engage in substance abuse. Prohibits consideration of ameliorative effects of mitigating measures when assessing an impairment. Major life activities is expanded to include major bodily functions. The answer is B.